are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
I'm turning 62 this summer, and no, nothing to applaud, nothing to applaud. You don't applaud somebody for getting older, that's just dumb luck. I'm turning 62, I'm not happy about it because it's not a lot of fun, but what irritates me even more than that is to watch some celebrities sit on the television I'm watching and go, hey, I just turned 64, and I've never felt better in my life. Wow, are you full of shit? This is the best you've felt? Seriously? In your whole life? 64? What was it like early on? Were you suffering from polio? Were you in an iron lung? In your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, did they cover you with ticks? You have Alzheimer's, you son of a bitch. I have a great deal of love and affection for my generation, and it was my generation, really, was the first generation ever that said they were going to change the world. And we certainly did. We have screwed it up. The saddest thing is that right now, my generation has no legacy to leave behind. People are going to look back at my generation and go, whoa, how did that happen? And so I firmly believe we need to leave a legacy behind. And there is really, I think, only one thing that we can get done before because we're running out of time. And I believe that the one thing that we can do is legalize pot. I realize there's kind of a difference. It's illegal here, but you don't seem to care. Which is an interesting thing, because in the United States, when something is illegal like pot is, we arrest people. We love rules. I mean, it's unbelievable. But we allowed BP to basically, do what they did to us. I mean, it's almost murder. And Tony Hayward leaves on a yacht, but my friend Eddie is picked up for a half a joint in an ashtray. It's unbelievable. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, hey, Louis, the reason you want it legalized is you smoke pot, and I don't, and I seriously don't. I did, and it was great. But as any kid would, some kids do, I smoked too much. I smoked a ton. And then by the time I turned 25, I was smoking so much, it didn't work anymore. It didn't work, nothing. And then I turned 35, and I quit for 10 years. A friend of mine says, you gotta try it again. They've improved it. It scared me to death. I couldn't feel my feet. I could not feel my feet. Hey, you son of a bitch. I've got no feet. Bring me some water from the kitchen. I got no feet. Bring me water. I am parched. And it was then that I became a drinker. I will tell you that if you're a drinker and you're against the legalization of pot, you're a hypocrite. And there's no argument. There's no argument. You're allowed to have your high. You don't allow others to have their high. And I know what you're thinking, but Mr. Black, I saw your little demonstration there. I think that was very scary. You had no feet. It's scary to you. It's not scary to the pot smoker. That's why they smoke pot. They smoke pot to lose their feet. That's why the pot smoker is happy wherever they are. I'm not going anywhere. This is great. Besides, I got no feet. Now, the reason we drink, as we well know, is we want to basically lose our head. That's what we do. We think too much, and we take that bottle and we go, come on, stop it! Stop thinking! Now, it seems to me, call me silly, it's kind of smarter, really, if you had a choice of losing your head or your feet. I think the feet. To simplify the argument, if you were to leave the theater this evening and I said, I'm giving you a choice. You can get in a car with a driver who's completely drunk, or you can get into a car with someone who's stoned to the tits. Which car are you going to get in? Unless you're feeling suicidal, you're going to get in with the stoner, because the stoner's not going to be caught speeding, are they? Because the stoner is taking the time, unlike the drinker, to smell the roses. Or at least think that's what they're smelling. One of the reasons that I had no fear of smoking when I was young was because I was lied to. You can't lie to someone about something. You just can't do it, because it makes the person realize, hey, it's not so bad. I knew that pot wasn't bad, and I knew it because I was told that it was a gateway drug, that pot would lead to the use of heroin. You know what else does? Pretzels. Especially with spicy mustard. As we all well know, pot is a gateway drug, isn't it? It's a gateway drug to the kitchen. I became healthier because of pot. When I was young, my mother said to me, I really want you to try some yogurt. It's really good for you, and it contains bacteria. And since I loved my mother and trusted her, I took a little yogurt and went, this stuff tastes like shit! What's the matter with you? Are you trying to kill me? This is crazy! Did somebody put something in a sock and leave it in their crotch for a week and then add blueberries? When I was 21, I was alone in my apartment just off campus. There were no roommates around, and I smoked a joint, and I ended up in the kitchen. But all that was left to eat there was yogurt. I realized I could walk 2 blocks and have any food that I could possibly want, or yogurt. But I wasn't sure what was out there. And so I had the yogurt. And it was spectacular! It was better than ice cream! I'm gonna eat this stuff for the rest of my life, and I'll be healthy, because it contains bacteria. There is a practical reason, a very practical reason, to legalize pot. My country has no economy. And I am pretty sure yours doesn't, because your dollar is almost equal to ours. We could raise money in our country by taxing the rich, but we're afraid of them. We don't tax rich people in our country. No, no, no. And what's interesting about not taxing rich people is if you actually tax them, if you taxed rich people, guess what? The next day, they'd still be rich. And so I propose to you that in order to get our economies back on track and raise money, that we legalize pot, and we can do it the old-fashioned way, with a bake sale. And then years from now, people will look back on my generation and say, that's the generation that legalized pot. And that explains why they didn't get anything else done. Always a pleasure to be with you.
As you can tell, it is time for hemp.
Here's the latest Live at Gotham podcast from ComedyCentral.com.
And I do want to thank the people at raiseyourvoice.com for being nice enough to help us with our graphics here on the big broadcast. And we want to let our sponsors know that they are the people who do the wonderful work on your videos here on Time for Hemp Broadcasting. And if you are wanting to be a sponsor, that would be a good thing, you know. And so we got a lot of groovy things that are happening today. That is for sure. And groovy in the sense that it's news from around the United States, sometimes around the world, we like to present and share here. And not always do you have the time to surf the internet and find what we think to be important content that you might want to share with your friends, or might help you make decisions at the voting booth, or where you might move, or what it is that you might want to do with some of your spare time on a holiday or vacation. So when we come across interesting news reports that we think you would like to be aware of, or a website or two, or a video too, we'd like to share it with you. And in this case, Time for Hemp, we have a lot of people who broadcast on our network, and we have been working with this gentleman by the name of Bill Levine for a long time. I know Bill. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm actually from Muncie, Indiana. Originally, I'm from Muncie, Indiana. And then I moved to Indianapolis, and when I was there, I was part of the Indiana Normal organization, and so was Bill. And Bill also organized a couple of other organizations to fight cannabis prohibition. And then when the governor, I think Pence, is that our vice president? I can't remember. There's been so much brouhaha talked about the clown and off. Anyway, so when the governor made it so that you could not discriminate, he did a religious law of some sort. And when he did, it opened up the door for this guy, Bill Levine, to start a cannabis church. Yipper. And we'll let him tell you about that. He's been a guest on the show quite a few times. He's got a good sense of humor. One of the reasons why we opened up the show with comedy, and I just love comedy. I think comedy is king, and I think that Mr. Black is one of the funniest comedians on the market today. So that's why we opened it up with that. But anyway, as I was sharing with you, there is this really cool guy in Indianapolis, Indiana, and his name's Bill Levine. He's got this church in Indianapolis. Well, you're going to learn more about it here in a minute. And the membership is growing, and the message is getting out there. And Bill has been with Normal now, I think, about 20 years. And he's also been with his own organizations. And he's quite an activist. He also thinks that comedy is a great way to get attention to a cause. And then when people are laughing, sometimes they're learning. And that doesn't always happen. I can certainly tell you that. So, but one of the things too is that Bill advocates getting out to vote and getting out to knock on your doors of your neighborhood and having a one-on-one conversation with your neighbors, and sending letters to your politicians, going to the town halls where your politicians are at, and getting involved in the conversation so that the politicians have to publicly talk about the need to end cannabis prohibition, prison overcrowding, how our farmers could use this for a cash crop, but Washington, D.C. stands in the way. Those kind of uncomfortable conversations that politicians hate to have publicly, especially during an election year. So Bill is very clever with comedy. He likes to use it as a way to open minds. So anyway, let's just share this story here from Channel 6 in Indianapolis, Indiana, here in the Time for Hemp.
This week's edition of our special guest commentary features a very controversial topic in the state of Indiana, the idea of legalizing marijuana. Joining us today is Bill Levine of the First Church of the Cannabis and supporter of legalizing marijuana.
I'm here to talk to you about the beauties and the wonder of the cannabis plant. Did you know that 73% of Hoosiers want medical marijuana in our state? Did you know that it can fight and regulate several diseases? It can help you lose weight. It can help your metabolism. It can help fight anxiety, depression, and it can be a safe alternative and a cure for opiate addictions. It can spur mental creativity and helps focus. It can reverse the negative impacts of smoking tobacco on your lungs. It can be helpful for easing PTSD in our veterans. Its seeds are healthy and full of amino acids and protein. You can build environmentally sound structures with it. We currently have companies in Indiana that have 22 containers loads of hemp being shipped here every single week. According to the Uniform Crime Reporting data for Denver, there has been a 10.1% decrease in overall crime and 5.2% drop in violent crime. In Washington state, violent crime rates have dropped by 10%. Voters legalized recreational marijuana there in 2012. The only connection between marijuana and violence is the one that exists when illegal sellers battle it out for profits on the black market. It is our responsibility to compel our elected officials to change and be part of that action. Cannabis is good for our people and good for our state. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your smiles make me happy. I love you all.
That was Bill Levin. Now we want to know what you have to say. Let us know what you think of what Mr. Levin talked about or anything on your mind regarding Indianapolis this week. You can reach us on Twitter, on the RTV6 Facebook page, on the RTV6 app, or at theindychannel.com.
Well, I don't oftentimes talk about current events going on in the news. But I'm going to today. We had a beautiful solar eclipse this morning, and it rocked. I can certainly tell you it was good to be up and to be part of it. I was in a part of Oregon where it was near total. I'm in Portland. About 60 miles or more up the road, it was a total eclipse. And it really is interesting to be able to watch the moon and the sun and the stars all interact with one another and be a part of this planet, this life at this time. I remember my first solar eclipse. I was probably about 5, 6, 7 in Indiana. I think the second time I was about 18, 19 in Indiana. And then there was a near total eclipse, and I was living in California about 20 years ago. And to be a part of this one too, it's nice to have been in spots in the United States during the total eclipse, when the total eclipse happened, to be able to see it. I don't know. I've just been very lucky throughout my path in life, and so. If you missed it, please make it a point to check out the news. You missed quite a sight to say the least. And then another big thing in the news, you know, I said at the top of the hour that I thought comedy is king, and I do believe comedy is king, and there's just no doubt about it. And one of the people who made comedy king, I don't know, there's a lot of people in today's generation who are kind of oblivious to the work of this gentleman, but people my age surely appreciate Jerry Lewis and the work that Jerry Lewis did in the theater. It's kind of weird to see him at that age now. I remember him when he and Dean Martin were doing those road shows, and then everybody knows him from his days when he was raising money for muscular dystrophy. And so Jerry really did a lot of good things while he was here, and so we salute Jerry Lewis. Now, comedy is king. Now, like I said, a lot of people in today's generation don't really appreciate how funny Jerry Lewis can be, and I don't even know if this clip will do it, but you know, you can pick a lot of different clips from the Jerry Lewis collection. You know, when he did the Nutty Professor, or when he was doing his work with Dean Martin, or when he was doing his work later in his life. He did a couple of dark comedies, And but I think a lot of people most remember him from this scene that I'm going to go ahead and play here on today's show in honor of him. And I don't know, you might not, but
Excuse
if
me?
you get a chance,
Mr.
check
Quimby
out
told me
his
to come
work.
down.
Please wait inside.
Oh,
He's
yes.
fantastic,
Thank you.
or was fantastic. Well, anyway, it's kind of sad to see him go, but at 91, you know, he had a pretty good life, and he brought a lot of comedy into the world. Many of you might not even know what he was doing, come to think of it. I was watching that and realized that there's a good number of people alive today who have never seen an old-fashioned typewriter, chink, with a cartridge where you put the paper in it, had a little bell to let you know that you were at the end of your line. So when you hear, so if you were looking at your text while you were typing and not paying attention, you'd hear a ding, and which reminds you to start the next line. Well, anyway, it was pretty inventive during the time, and he was pretty clever and pretty funny, and kept a lot of people laughing. And so we'd like to salute Jerry Lewis, send him and his family our best wishes, and let people know that we appreciated the laughter that he brought into the world, and that if you've not had a chance to fully enjoy his work, well, then please make it a point to check him out on YouTube, rent some of the films that he was in, and get some popcorn and friends to do it together with. And you know, laughter is always better when you do it with friends. And that's also true with big ceremonies, and we also encourage sharing love here. And another interesting news broadcast that you might have missed is that a lot of people are getting married with reefer in mind, and they're incorporating cannabis into the wedding, marriage ceremonies, decorations, the cake. A pioneer in the cannabis movement, recently released from prison and married also, did quite the same thing, had a cannabis marriage, a marijuana marriage, as they say. And anyway, I can talk about it, but instead of me sharing it with you, why don't you check out this current news broadcast?
680's Richard Southern joins us now. And Richard, it's the hottest new trend in the wedding business and has the bride and groom saying, I do be marijuana nuptials, all the rage.
Yes, this is something we're seeing now in a lot of U.S. states where marijuana is legal for recreational purposes, Francis. It's something we're going to see here in Canada next summer when we legalize it. It is marijuana weddings. So standard wedding fare, like the bride's bouquet of flowers mixed with cannabis buds and leaves, the traditional wedding cake made with marijuana butter, and instead of the first dance, the newly married couple enjoy a first toke with their friends and family looking on. Other marijuana wedding items include gift bags with joints, so reception tables named after cannabis strains, and baby marijuana plants as gifts. This is something that we've seen just lately in Las Vegas. Of course, that city no stranger to odd sort of weddings, and Nevada just legalized marijuana for recreational use. One of the benefits, Francis, people say that have done this, they often spend a little bit less money. They notice that people drink less alcohol at these sort of weed weddings and therefore lower the cost for the bride and groom.
Yeah, but how much do they eat? How much snacking is going on at that wedding?
The midnight table of Doritos has to go out, yes.
No kidding. Well, to each their own, I guess. So Air Canada is flying high for a different reason. The airline reporting big profits.
And the stock hitting a record high today. So Air Canada in with its second quarter.
Well, I'm about to hit my record high, and as I hit my record high, why don't we say hi to some of our sponsors and come back here on Time for Hemp.
How would you like to have all the best cannabis info all in one place? Canafo.com is the Google, Facebook, and Craigslist of cannabis. It even has its own social media platform. Canafo.com puts the world of medicinal and recreational cannabis in one place for consumers, businesses, and growers. Canafo.com is a free service where you can find over 9,000 different strains of cannabis, shop cannabis classifieds, and much more. Canafo.com is the world's most comprehensive source for all things cannabis. Get in the know with Canafo.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Welcome back. We appreciate you sticking around. Make it a point to let our sponsors know that you heard about them here on the big broadcast, as that's how we're going to be found. That is for sure. And while you're at it, share us with your friends and let your friends know about us and know how hard we work to try to end cannabis prohibition. Also, you can write your congressmen and senators and all the political leaders in your community, and trust me, people, it does help. There are some politicians in Washington, D.C. who are actually working diligently to change the scheduling of cannabis, who want to see hemp brought back into the farm community, and coast to coast politicians are listening, and here is an example of that right here. Some of you may not like this particular politician. I can't help it. But some of you may find him to be one of your heroes. That's wonderful. But one of the things you will find, he is always interesting.
Tonight's event is about basically launching the campaign to legalize, tax, and regulate marijuana in New York State. We know that New York has been the marijuana arrest capital of the world and has continuously destroyed communities all over the state. And today we decided that enough is enough. We need to deal with marijuana in a different way and join the rest of the country on having having sensible drug policies.
And the best way to do that is for New York to finally pass the Senator Liz Kruger's bill to legalize and regulate and tax marijuana on pretty much the same basis as alcohol.
I've watched the ravages of alcohol, tobacco, and illicit drugs of all sorts of natures that are not what marijuana has been in the history of the United States or in the present society as we know it today.
And so tonight is the culmination of decades of work. And as I said to the people before, that I always knew that the people would come together, but I never knew that they would have so much passion and be so beautiful.
You can be denied public housing.
Exactly.
You can be denied admission to college.
Exactly.
You can be detained with immigration. These are very serious issues based on the criminalization of marijuana.
Right.
And that's why this is a civil rights issue.
And welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in and sharing us with your friends. We've got another report that we're going to be posting on our Tweety feed and our Facebook feed and all the other feeds that we like to put up on our feeds, and so that we can feed you the truth about cannabis prohibition being a bad thing and it needing to come to an end. Here it says a record number of Americans have tried marijuana, this new survey shows. Really? There's been a record number of marijuana use really over the years, because we found out that all the things that you said, as we said at the top of the hour, were a lie. And so since you lied to us about it, and then we found out it was good for you, and that smoking cannabis recreationally is better than drinking liquor and smoking medical cannabis, you live longer and it helps you with stress and a variety of other problems. Jeepers, you wonder why that is. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, gosh. You can also, so anyway, we're going to have that there, but you can also go to our own website, timeforhemp.com, which you can do it with or without the hyphens. And when you go to time-for-hemp.com, all the hyphens are. You find this. If you go to timeforhemp.com, you'll find a landing page that leads you to this. And here, this is our website where you can poke around and you can learn an awful lot about cannabis. You can get free podcasts for the past several years, audio and video. These shows are found on the website under our social media outlet. And here you find the list of the shows that we've got going. You just click on the title of the show that you're looking for, and when you find the series, then you can go through and you can also find the segments you like. Just click on the date, and just as soon as you do, it will open up, and all of a sudden, right before your very eyes, it will start to play. So isn't that cool? So we're easy to find, and we want you to share us with your friends, because we do think cannabis prohibition is just a horrible thing, and we don't want to see anybody behind bars. We're not happy when people who get arrested for using medical cannabis, it becomes part of their record as well. They can't get federal housing, they can't get federal help when they need it. It is just horrible that people would even consider doing that to begin with. So that we ask you to get involved in your community to make a difference and help make cannabis prohibition go away, and if possible for everybody to do this. Wherever they're at, you can see that the sun's about to go down. I like to use the sun as much as I can for my natural lighting to show my natural beauty while I enjoy the natural herb here at Time for Hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio.